Hi everyone, Charles from The Food People here. I hope you're all keeping safe and well. It's my great pleasure to welcome Brody Sweeney, serial entrepreneur and founder of Camile Thai Kitchen. Brody joins us today to talk about how he's embracing technology and sustainability in this era of reset in hospitality. So welcome Brody, and thank you for joining me today as part of The Food People in Conversation With.
Well, hello from Dublin. It's great to be with you, Charles. We're big fans of the Food People and the organisation. So actually, kind of honoured to be taking part in this today. So thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure. And at The Food People, we're very clear about why we do what we do. We're champions of change, driven every day by our intent to shift the future of food and drink by harnessing the power of trends. And this In Conversation With series is all about talking to other people, businesses, brands, and entrepreneurs to find out more about why they do what they do and how, in their way, they're championing change and shifting the future of food and drink. So great pleasure once again, Brody, to have you here today. And I wonder if we can just start with, where are you at as a business? And I mean, gosh, last 9 months in hospitality has got to have been a pretty interesting place to be. So how have you found it? And perhaps have you turned this into an opportunity?
Well, and look, unlike most things in my life, this time we've been really lucky. And I mean that really lucky, just finding ourselves in the right type of hospitality for a pandemic. Our business is coming up to 40 units now between Ireland and London. We're primarily suburban based. We were doing 70% home delivery before the pandemic started. So we had figured out a menu that holds well while we deliver it. We had to figure out the packaging. We have a really good online ordering experience. So when the pandemic kicked in, yeah, like everyone, we had a lot of wobbles at the beginning, a lot of nervous staff. But since then, business has been good this year. And I say that kind of guiltily because I'm so aware of my peer group and colleagues who are having an absolute show. And we're not. We're actually having a pretty good year. So that's been great. I haven't had to have the stress of a lot of people in hospitality, but I do say that because just being incredibly grateful, because I know how the carnage that there is out there, which we haven't had to deal with. I'm an optimist. I do think we're probably at the bottom of the cycle now, and things will start improving from here, and who knows, maybe by summer next year, it's getting to the point of a memory.
Businesses, when they move forward and develop, very often those areas, those directions are often rooted right back in what the business is all about and what it's trying to achieve. And I wonder if I can just ask you if you can articulate, to the audience thinking about Camile Thai Kitchen, what's the business's purpose and what is it that you're really setting out to try and do?
Yeah, it was a great question. So firstly, when we started out the business, our kind of idea was to do a Domino's and Asian food. So we looked at, this is now pre-Deliveroo, pre-Just Eat. Our business is just over 10 years old. So we looked at the home delivery sector, and I just had this thing in my mind, this is going to be huge. People are addicted to screens. They're not going to want to go out as much. They're going to want ever more convenience. And so let's do a business that's kind of taking that into account. We looked at the pizza business, very strong brands, experts in home delivery, really good online ordering experience. And then we looked at other businesses and there wasn't any. So there are no Asian brands focused on home delivery. There are no, hamburger brands focused on home delivery. So we set up a brand initially, and we wanted to be the Domino's of the Asian food business. So focus on home delivery, really good online ordering experience, a menu that was really quick to cook, that would hold well for half an hour while we delivered it. And then kind of almost by accident, we came to coming up with a name for the business, and we ultimately called it Camile. Camile is some people will know is a French name for either a boy or a girl. When we came up with the name, we realized if we took the second L out of it, that we would be able to trademark it, which we did. So we were able to trademark it. So we invented this persona, and then we designed a brand that addressed that. So we knew Camile would like to see the calories on the menu, but she'd probably ignore them then. Mm-hmm. She'd probably be interested in sustainability. On social media, she'd be interested in fashion, and health and wellness and celebrity, and she'd have no interest in football or cars. So it helped us coming up with a kind of persona, helped us steer a brand around this persona. And what came out of that ultimately was a brand slightly female centric, built around health and wellness and sustainability. And so we embraced these kind of trends in food around health and wellness. So we were the first to put, the first mainstream chain to put calories on the menu, first to put a 600 calorie section on that, first mainstream chain to have a decent vegan section, first to go fully compostable with our packaging. And if you look at our content on social media, it's about fashion, health and wellness, and celebrity. And we don't mention cars or football or anything of that nature. So the brand is about doing a Domino's in Asian food because we think that's an amazing opportunity. But we also want to lead in health and wellness and sustainability because takeaways traditionally have been a guilty pleasure, and probably for a good reason in lots of cases. And so traditionally a sector that was heavily processed food, heavily deep fried food, crappy looking shop fronts, no customer service, no marketing, no branding. And we've kind of taken all those stereotypes and tried to flip them on their head. So our food is restaurant quality. If you get a beef dish in Tooting Bec, it'll be made with British sirloin beef. It's fresh vegetables, it's sauces we made ourselves. There's no MSG, there's no funny stuff. And it'll go in a compostable package, which can, be recycled in a compostable bin. All those things make up this health and wellness and sustainable brand, doing gorgeous food. But we're really ambitious, so we want to be a Domino's too.
Do you see yourselves as playing in the Wagamama space, or do you see Wagamama as playing in your space, or because when you talked about that, and I'm sure that will be the same for a lot of the audience, they'll go to a Wagamama reference point. Just love to get your view on that.
Yeah. So a good analogy is pizza. So if you think about Pizza Express, they're really good at the dine-in, but they don't do home delivery so well. And if you think about Domino's, they're really expert in home delivery, but they're terrible at dine-in. We're on the Domino's end of the spectrum. So we think Wagamama does dine-in really well. We don't do it as well as that. And we, to be frank, we're not that ambitious to do it as well as that. We do delivery way better than they do, like way better. So we've a better online ordering experience. We have our fully compostable packaging, which is really cool. And we've worked out on our menu what will hold well for half an hour. While we deliver it, we get the logistics piece. We totally understand that. We're not bolting it on to fundamentally a dine-in business because our dine-in business is in the bin at the moment. In our DNA, we want to be experts at delivery. We don't really have an ambition to be experts at dine-in. We think Wagamama does that much better than us.
Yeah. Okay. I think we can all agree that this is very much a reset era in hospitality. There's got to be a new formula, certainly a mass formula that emerges, and it feels like there's a focus on technology and automation and robotics, and maybe even the likes of drone deliver. Is this the era where that starts to move from novelty to necessity, and how are you starting to embrace some of those technologies? Love to hear about that.
I think it is actually it's moving from kind of fantasy and hype spin into reality. If I talk about robotics for a second, commercial kitchens are one of the last areas of high labor industries that haven't really had robotics applied to them in any serious way. One of the challenges we have in the business, one of our big challenges, is the amount of business that's now done on Deliveroo and Just Eat. It's very hard to make money with our current business models because the commissions we have to pay them are so high. So it got us thinking about how could we reduce our costs. One of the things, again, with this Domino reference is, if you look at how Domino's make a pizza, they've some guy or girl slaps out the dough, and somebody else puts a topping on it, and then it slides into a conveyor oven and it comes out the other end. Well, to use that analogy in Camile, we have the same, we assemble a dish on a make line, and then it goes on to a wok cooker. And where Domino's have a conveyor oven, we have 5 chefs standing on a Saturday night, 5 heads that have to be paid. So we applied our mind to how could we semi-automate the cook line. So how could we semi-automate the cooker so that we could reduce the labor input, those people will get redeployed into something more interesting. So it's not about people losing jobs, but how can we reduce our costs so we have a bit more margin to pay the aggregators and leave a bit for ourselves. So we're pretty well advanced with a semi-automatic wok cooker. We've been inspired by other people, so it's not just our invention, but I think we may be the first to get it out there commercially. And people would be familiar with the old cement mixers on building sites.
Yeah.
And this is essentially the guts of what a robotic wok cooker is. So it's a bucket with a fin in it that spins over a heat source. And so we put our ingredients into that, and instead of a chef having to stand and manipulate a wok, this does that. This replicates this action. So on a busy Saturday night where we would have 5 chefs standing in front of a wok cooker, we're pretty sure we can do that now with 2. So that's a huge saving in our labor cost, which allows us to spend more on the aggregator, which we don't want to spend more with them, but that's practically it will help us make our business viable into the future. So that's real, that's happening, and we would expect to have that in at least in one of our restaurants next year to fully run with that. That has big implications for a business like ours. That's a material change in our labor cost when we get that operating. And so we're really excited about that. So that's a real example of robotics being used in a way which will have a material impact on how we run our kitchens. I think the other one you're referring to, I know you know that we're the first in Europe to deliver food by drones. We are doing it today. You can order food and get it delivered by drone. And the technology of doing the delivery works perfectly. These are fully autonomous. So when we get an order in, a customer can choose whether they want a drone delivery or a regular delivery. If they want a drone, we cook the food, load it into the drone, takes off to about 400 feet, flies directly, fully autonomously now. There's nobody there with a little joystick. It flies there. When it gets over the GPS coordinate over the grid, it sends a text message to the customer asking if they're happy to receive it. If they are, the drone comes down to about 40 feet. Little door opens underneath, and the food comes down on a string, and the string unravels from the drone, and the drone goes back up and flies away. The drones themselves work perfectly. They're fully autonomous. You know, we've delivering them 99% of the time. The food arrives upright on the, where it's intended to. So it works. It works really well. From a business point of view, again, is this real? For us, it will be about half the cost of a delivery driver. So our business is primarily located in residential suburbs, and this is perfect for residential suburbs. Somewhere with a garden is ideal. Coronation Street's not great because they don't want to drop public space in case they drop it in somebody's head, but a garden's fine. So it's about half the cost of a conventional delivery. It is, of course, environmentally friendly. So instead of sending a 3-ton car with the big carbon footprint that has, we're now sending a renewable electric powered drone. So it's a really good carbon footprint. And then it's quicker for consumers. So there's no traffic, there's no traffic lights, there's no roadworks. It just goes straight to you. So it's much quicker. So on every level, you got to go, that's amazing. Like that's really fantastic. So it saves us money. It's quicker for the consumer. It's environmentally friendly. There isn't really any other boxes we want to take. It is real and it is really close. That's the thing. So it's gone from somebody doing a drone to show off. Aren't we amazing? We've done the first drone. We've done about 1,000 deliveries in the last 2 months, real deliveries to real customers who are happy with the service. So it's real and it's really close.
We've talked about sustainability a couple of times, and I'll mention it again in a few moments' time. But what are the other essential elements that you see as part of this sort of new era in hospitality? What are the other elements of that formula, if you like?
Look, I think people are addicted to screens. That's a reality, and so that is fundamentally changing how people consume food. So if we think of the restaurant industry, I don't think the treat eat is going anywhere. So people will still want to celebrate birthdays and retirements and parties and go meet their friends. That's not going anywhere. But I think a lot of the functional eat will go. So if we think of a restaurant that had that treat eat on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe it was more functional. Somebody was hungry, they just wanted to eat and fueled up and didn't want to cook. I think a lot of that business has gone to the home and it's not coming back. And so I think we kind of look at the week in two parts, that the early part of the week be more functional. It's not a trend, it's just I need to fuel up. And that a lot of that business has gone home and it isn't coming back. And the treat eat will still be there, but maybe it's going to be in lesser numbers. I think the comforting thing when you think about the UK, 60 million people, people are not going to eat less food because there's a pandemic or a downturn. They're just consuming it in different ways. So they haven't, they're not eating any less food. So it's the smart restaurant operators will figure out how people are changing their eating habits and respond to that. And I've no doubt lots of businesses over the pandemic, they've seen things like meal kits. They had no idea there was a meal kit business before, and there is. And my guess is when the pandemic is over, that a lot of restaurant business will continue going with meal kits because they're a nice profit source. And we had a great fun in Dublin with guys driving around vans with beer taps fitted in the back, going around housing estates. Oh, brilliant innovation, like fantastic. Bringing a pint of Guinness, which is our national treasure, bringing it to your doorstep. I mean, people would have paid double the price they pay in a bar to get that experience at home. So, like amazing. So fantastic innovation. We've seen restaurants opening grocery stores, high-end grocery stores because they can't do the restaurant business, and making a good go of it. So I think this is a time of great upset and great pain. Is also a time of great innovation. And the comforting thing is people aren't eating less food; they are eating the same or more. So how do you get at them?
Yeah. Okay. We've touched on sustainability a couple of times, and one of the things that, because you're applying sustainable practices to your business today, I'm really curious as to how do you feel the hospitality industry can embrace the commerciality around sustainable practices that make a real difference, but not only make a difference to the planet, but also the commercial overlay with that as well, as opposed to just doing some of these things from as a token gesture. What's your experience around that?
Again, not holding ourselves out to be an expert in any of this. Look, we would feel we want to try and lead and show others and encourage others. So, for example, with us going with compostable packaging, it was about 15% more for us to cost than conventional packaging, but we really made it pretty as well. So I think other restaurants will look at that and go, we'll have a bit of that. That's making, so it makes sense for us because it gives us a clear point of difference. We are a premium brand, so we charge a higher price. So we were able to absorb the 15% and go in the right direction, because I don't think it's done at all. At the end of the day, for me, single-use anything, isn't sustainable into the future. We need to get into reusables and returnables. We're interested in leading. We're also, as marketeers, interested in points of difference that set us apart from others. I think you find things like when you look at coffee cups. 5 years ago, there was none of the coffee cups were compostable. Now they're almost 100% compostable. Yeah. So some companies had to lead and take a step in it. Compostable cups still aren't, when you delve into it, they're not disposed of properly. There's a lot of problems, a lot of issues still with it. And it goes back to the point about single use anything. We should be thinking that that's got to end at some point, and the sooner the better. But that's an example of, a few companies showing the way. Now everybody does it. Now we kind of wonder, now if we see a coffee cup that's not compostable, we're wondering, and we feel the same thing. So you lead by example. Eventually it becomes commercial. The thing that's different becomes the norm. Drones are really fascinating. People are fascinated by drones at the moment. It's really interesting. Like, we've great stories to tell in our business, and no one wants to talk about anything except drones. And drones are, because it's so unusual and so futuristic and everything, but they will become commonplace, and then we'll be kind of wondering why they're interesting anymore, because everybody will use them. So at the beginning it looks a bit weird or a bit innovative or really creative or fantastic, but eventually these things will become commonplace. And I think that about compostables, we're almost certain this next year that we're going to print the carbon footprint on each of our dishes and our menus.
Right. Okay.
Big deal, right? And we're pretty sure that when we start putting our first carbon footprints on, they're going to be horrible. They're going to make us look really bad, like terrible offenders. But we know it's the start of a journey of us starting to think about those things and think about offsets and think about how we don't import stuff and the air miles and all that. And that would be really strange when we do it. But it's the start of, 10 years ago, nobody put calories on menus.
No.
So it's the start of, another step on the journey of sustainability. We really like Brewdog, like great company, but they're leading, not with carbon neutral, carbon negative.
Yeah.
We love that idea. So they've inspired us to kind of go down that journey, and then maybe we'll inspire somebody else to do it. But what becomes odd at the beginning, like compostable coffee becomes the normal, and that's kind of the reason for doing it. Yeah.
And when do you hope to be able to put carbon footprint on your packaging?
Definitely before the end of next year. Yeah, we again, like I'd love to say we were like really original. I could say we've never really had an original idea in our lives, right? What we see as other people doing it, we try and do it a little bit better. So Panera Bread in the States have just started doing their menus with carbon footprints. We saw it, we thought it was a great idea. We got in touch with the organization that manages that, and we are, we're heavily engaged with them now, and almost certainly by this time next year we'll be doing that. Yeah. And the point about starting the journey is then we can start to think about what we can do about it. But until we have a kind of base level of knowledge, we don't really know. I have no idea what our carbon footprint is at the moment. Not clear. My guess is it's not great.
I'm conscious as well that you've got experience of running physical restaurants, but also delivery concepts as well. Just how different are those two different business models? The physical restaurant and then the sort of dark kitchen or sort of central production kitchen. Just your observations. There's been a lot of talk about this over recent years. We had somebody talking at a summit about on demand and direct to delivery just the week before last. So yeah, just interested in your kind of experiences of the two worlds, really.
We're operating a couple of cloud kitchens in London, in Canary Wharf, and in Bermondsey. They're very fashionable at the moment. There's no question about it. There's a truckload of money being invested in them. Really big names. They are incredibly fashionable. I'm not sure that they're not being overblown. Our experience, we're in the one in Bermondsey for about 2 years. It does really good sales, but it's very hard to make money. Mm-hmm. And we're, we have some idea of what we're about. As operators, even with a high volume, it's really hard to get a bottom line in it. So we're really interested in them because they're so fashionable. But we're really interested because we want to be part of the future and we want to understand them. But I'm not convinced that they're brilliant. What they're great for is a few things. One is they reduce risk. So if you want to have a go in Leeds or Manchester and you don't have a kitchen there, it's expensive to build a full-blown restaurant. To go in and try out a market, it's brilliant. You have really low capital costs because the cloud kitchen manufacturer builds a kitchen. So you can go in on a 1-year license, try it out, see how it goes, and that's a really low risk. So I think that's brilliant, and we're really attracted to that side of it. So we're interested, for example, to go to New York. Could we get into New York in a cloud kitchen? Mm-hmm. Our downside risk on that is way less than us building a full-blown restaurant and taking on a long lease. So that's really attractive. They're really relatively simple to operate because there's no front of house. Yeah. So it's just a kitchen. So there's no telephones, there's no reception areas, there's no waiters or waitresses. So on the surface, that's kind of attractive too. That's kind of attractive too, as well. Downside is it's really hard to make money.
Do you, with that in mind, and you're as a business embracing technology and new ways of doing things, do you see yourself as are you a restaurant chain, a casual restaurant chain, or are you a tech company, or are you something completely different?
Well, really, we're a delivery chain. So we'd like to think a delivery chain with a tech focus, but actually we're a logistics business, to be truthful. Yeah. So when you're taking an order in, prepping it, cooking it, packing it, dispatching it in 30 minutes, that's a logistics exercise. Yeah. And first and foremost, we need an operating system that can support our ability to do that. It's a given that the food's good. So if the food isn't good, it doesn't matter how good your logistics is. So we really do care about doing gorgeous food, and the food has to be gorgeous, but it also has to be capable of being done at high volume and done in a replicable way. Mm-hmm. And it's got to be capable of being cooked for us in 90 seconds. So we're talking about, taking an order in, prepping it, goes on to a wok for 90 seconds, then it gets boxed. If it takes 2.5 minutes, it doesn't work with our system. So it's ridiculous. It's ridiculously quick.
Fast.
So if we're cooking chicken, for example, we have to par cook the chicken, half cook it before service, and then for service we finish it. But it's really quick. So I think fundamentally we're a delivery business. We like to think we're a tech-led restaurant business. Our DNA, health, wellness, sustainability, but also the innovation. So it's absolutely, we're embracing technology where we see it enhancing the experience. So if you can deliver your food quicker, that's a real customer benefit. So we want that. Our online ordering experience has to be as good as Deliveroo or Just Eat or whoever is doing really good online ordering experience. So it has to, it just has to be up there. If we can cook stuff with less labor, that's a good thing, for business. The drones, all that is lending itself ultimately to a better customer experience, to a better quality product, to a more efficient, more profitable business. That's why we do it, not just to call ourselves technology, but there's an intelligent, at least there's an intelligent reason for going into it. It isn't always intelligent how it comes out of it, but the intelligent reason for trying it.
One of the things that I want to be known for is championing change, shifting the future of food and drink. That's really what fires me and everybody that works as part of the Food People up. What is it that you as Brody Sweeney want to be known or remembered for, regarded for?
We're a franchise business. Fundamentally, we're about a third company owned and 2/3 franchised. A lot of our franchisees have kind of come from within our business. They started with us as chefs or drivers or managers, and through working with us and becoming franchisees, they have become independent business people in their own right, and they now employ people and they create their own wealth. And I'm proudest of that I've helped people fulfill their potential and realize their dreams. I really got a lot of pleasure out of that. Some of our franchisees we have now earn more money than we do, and I'm incredibly proud of that. I think that's brilliant. Eventually I'll catch up and I'll pass them out. That's even better. So I'm most proud of that. So I love our sustainable, that we're leading in sustainability and health and wellness. I really love that, and I love the technology bit. But the proudest bit I have is when I look around the business and I see people who are bringing up their families. They're realizing their own dreams. They're fulfilling their potential. That's the bit that I love the best.
No, that's great. What do you see as some of the biggest, I guess, challenges and opportunities right now in food and drink? And I guess how are either you or through your business, Camile Thai Kitchen, doing your bit to address them? It's a big question, I know.
Yeah. Well, I think we're looking at a fundamental reset. So I was interviewing someone this morning who works for an airline catering business, and that business isn't going back to the way it was. It's going to go back in a different way. Restaurants that have been trading in central business districts, they're not going to be going back in the same way. So there's a fundamental reset going on, and I think sadly a lot of businesses aren't going to make it through. There's going to be less demand for that type of, for whether it's airline catering or airport catering or for office area. There's going to be less demand for it. Going back to my point about people aren't eating less, demand is going somewhere else.
Yes,
shifting in a different direction. I'm not sure how people will overcome it. I think people, in hospitality, they know hospitality, they love hospitality. They will pivot eventually. What I think is I'm sad with in a way is that so many people are being dragged into off-premises kicking and screaming and kind of swearing the minute this is over, they're going to go back to what they do best. And I think the off-premises is here to stay, and the smart operators will recognize that and address it in their business models and make it part of it. And I think you can make it part of it. What's not cool is, if you've got a lovely dine-in restaurant, having guys with crash helmets wandering through the restaurant and ruining the experience. But as you're building new restaurants, maybe you can build a back door where you can do that delivery stuff from. You can redesign your kitchens so that you can handle it. So there's a fundamental reset going on. I think there'll be losers, but I think there's also great ingenuity in the sector, and great passion in the sector. And I'd like people to embrace the off-premises side more, because it is here to stay. fundamentally is here to stay, and it doesn't mean that you can't have your beautiful fine dining experience at the front door and have a business that helps pay the the bills out the back door and is a different opportunity, but can be done the same way.
Yeah. Okay. And as I guess an innovator and an entrepreneur, what's next in the exciting journey for Camile Thai Kitchen?
Well, to make the drones real, it's big. To make the robotics in the kitchens is real. We're on a whole journey with our food now, with this new journey around carbon footprints and what are we going to do about that. I know that the Brewdose guys support a forest. I am so excited. Well, what a deadly thing to do, to buy your own forest.
Yeah.
And then I've been checking that out a little bit, but now there's the right type of forest and there's the wrong type. Some of them not so good. Really, the really big challenge for us is London. So we've got a really nice brand here in Ireland. We're a national brand now. We've a really nice business. It's really ticking along great. We've got a good footprint in London, but London is probably, for me, the best restaurant market in the world. It's the toughest one to make it in.
Yeah.
So I'm incredibly excited about the challenge of being the player. We're actually we're the fastest expanding Thai food restaurant chain in the UK and Ireland at the moment. We've a big plan for next year. But in Ireland, it's kind of like a cookie cutter business now. We know we've a high degree of certainty. If we open in a new location, it'll just take off like a rocket. Yeah. In London, each one of them, lives or dies on its own merits. And we'd love to get to a cookie cutter stage, and we're a good bit away from that. So that's what's really exciting us. We think we've got a great start. We've got people love our food, and they love our packaging. So we just have to get more footprint and get our brand more well known. So that's really exciting. Really exciting, yeah.
And I guess when it comes to London, there's a bit of working out where you fit, I suppose, in geographically, and the mix between where some of the delivery operators are very, very, very strong, and it's probably a more nuanced fit, I would imagine, in London, and working out what that is.
It's we're trading just over 3.5 years down. We've learned so much since we started. So at the beginning, we hadn't figured out the impact the Deliveroo's and Just Eats and Uber Eats would have on our business. So we probably have gone to areas where they're really strong, and that was kind of a logical thing to do, go where they're strong, because clearly there's lots of business there and we only want a little bit of it. But they're so efficient and so strong that they can actually deliver quicker than we can with our own drivers. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, ridiculous, bad for us.
Yes.
So our strategy, we were never interested in going into the city or the West End, because we're a suburban based offer, and we knew that. But we think we need to go further out into London villages, where Deliveroo and Just Eat are less strong, where there's less population density, where we can build our own brand up and do our own deliveries and be less dependent on them. And that's probably a critical part of the mix. But you look at a company like Domino's, they have 140 restaurants inside the M25. If we've got half that, we've got an unbelievable business.
Yeah.
So we would have changed our strategy since we started out 3.5 years ago. We use a lot of data to help us decide where to go with location-wise. We like data, and data sort of, what's the spending power, what are people spending on delivery, what's the relative strength of a company like Deliveroo. Where they're weaker, that's stronger for us. So we like that.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Brody. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you today. And this concludes this episode of the Food People in Conversation With. On behalf of all of us at the Food People and the In Conversation With audience, thank you so much for joining me today. And you've given us a really honest, inspirational, and I think thought-provoking insight into how you're championing food and drink, shifting the future of food and drink. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you today. Thanks ever so much, Brody. Really good to talk to you.
Enjoyed the conversation. Thank you, Charles.
So do join our TFP community for all of the details of our latest In Conversation With episodes, as well as the latest free-to-access food and drink trends foresight. Visit thefoodpeople.co.uk and complete your details at the footer of the page. On behalf of Brody and myself, thanks for listening to the Food People in Conversation With, and I'll just leave you with one question, which is, how are you shifting the future of food and drink? Thanks for listening.